Namo Buddha. Admonishment. Telling off. Before I talk about that, just a quick disclaimer. This isn't supposed to be a daily diary, nor is it officially Dharma talks. It may come under the heading on playlists of Dharma talks, but I had to categorize it as something to differentiate it between questions and answers. But really, it's just me sharing my experiences of the practice with you. And likewise, your comments, your questions fed back to me give me topics to discuss. There is another video today, which is a guided meditation. 2 today, because I made that last night. I don't think it's very good, but I've put it on for you to take from it what you wish. Maybe sit and listen and meditate, maybe just listen, take from it what is useful and leave what isn't. I'll let you be the judge of that. So 2 videos today, and I'll try to keep this one relatively short. The thing I wanted to talk about was admonishment, because it's really all part of our path towards enlightenment. Now, in the monastic arena, let's say, when you're living in a monastery, and this particular tradition, the Thai Forest tradition, and this is a branch of that here in Thailand, is possibly, I suppose, all monasteries operate within the guidelines and constraints of the Vinaya, the rules set down by the Buddha for the way monastics live. And some take it very literally and very strictly, and some a little bit more loosely and more flexibility. There's more flexibility in the interpretation. But for Thai forest monks, and in this particular tradition, the tradition of Ajahn Chah, this style of monastery, it is taken very much literally, very seriously, and in addition to that there are the additional bylaws which I've mentioned before, called the Core Wat. But essentially there are anyway thousands of rules, not just the 227 that I've mentioned previously before. There are literally thousands of rules and guidelines as to how monks should live, how lay people should live also, and how lay people and monks should live in conjunction with each other, how the fourfold assembly works with regards to monks, nuns, laymen, laywomen, because it's this synergy that keeps Buddhism going. The support the monks and the nuns get from the lay people is what has enabled them to keep going, and what the monks and nuns give to the lay people is what's enabled or encouraged the lay people to continue to give the support for so long, for 2,566 years. This is the core strength of Buddhism today. And why is it so strong in Thailand? Because it is so strictly held to. So even though I've lived in monasteries for some time now, it's been some time since I've lived in a monastery in Thailand, and that's not to say that any other monastery is deficient in any of these areas, not at all. It's just a different style of practice. So here there are only 4 monks and a samanera, 4 bhikkhus, 1 samanera. So a bhikkhu is a fully ordained monk, samanera is a novice, a trainee monk. And I mean, the novice here is considerably more up on things with regards to the Vinaya than I am. I must say that. And normally I'm used to a lot more monks, and the next most senior monk to me, because the other bhikkhu is junior to me, I'm not sure how that's come about. This is usually I'm the most junior, I suppose this is just time. He's very I'm guessing, I'm understanding, having now lived with him for just over only 2 weeks, but you soon learn how people's practice is. But both the senior to me monks here, Ajahns, so they are bhikkhus of more than 10 years, are, I would consider, just in my very humblest of points of view, highly attained practitioners. And I'm not really used to sitting at lunch next to arahants. They're not necessarily arahants, but let's say they're well on the way to our goal of enlightenment in this practice. Because usually there's more larger community of monks, and many monks more senior to me, between me and the more senior monastics. But here I have that privilege of good teachers and good company, because to live amongst such people is such a privilege, such a privilege. And this entails admonishment. Now, when I first went to a monastery in England, it was very much a different situation, because we have English ways of doing things. But when you move to a different country, there are cultural differences, and there's language. The language differential means that things become a little bit more black and white. So when you get an admonishment or a telling off, there's no beating around the bush, because it's the language thing. You just have to, they get to the point. And it's little things. But when I first went to a monastery in northeast Thailand, I didn't stay for many hours. I went about it all in accordance with the rules about how I arrived and how I left so quickly. I didn't just run away. I went and saw the abbot and apologized, said I'd made a terrible mistake, I can't stand this, I'm leaving. And he tried to ask me to stay for 3 days, which is what they would do. And I should have stayed for 3 days, but I didn't. I ran away with his permission. And then quickly found another monastery and tried again. And then this time I did stay, and I stayed a long time. And eventually I'm here and I'm a monk. So the reason? Because I was corrected. I was told the errors of my ways from the minute I walked in the gate until I left. Because we all know best. We all know how we've done things for all of our lives, and especially the older you are, we have expressions like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Don't teach your grandmother to suck eggs. All of these kind of nonsensical expressions. And very junior, young people, not junior in the practice, but young people can be telling you, don't hold your spoon like that, don't stand like this, don't walk like that, don't drink like this, don't go to the toilet like that. You know, if you're a mature person in your 40s, this kind of freaks you out somewhat. It's like back at school as a very young child, but worse. So there is this tendency to run away. Now, what's the point of that? Well, no, the point of that is actually to keep this whole sangha, this whole monastic order, this group of people living together, living in harmony with this sense of all being part of the same team, but very much in solitude. It's hard to describe. You're alone, your practice is in solitude, but you're also very much part of a very close family of support. You support them, they support you. Both upwards from your teachers to you, you support them, they support you. And to the people whom are helping you, they help you, you help them. And then in turn, the lay people also. And it has to be done correctly, everything. So just one example. Now I can honestly say, I think since I've been here, I've probably been admonished at least once every day. And if I'd been like I was, 10 years ago, what are we now, 23, getting on that way, I would have left a long time ago. I wouldn't be sitting here now enjoying this beautiful place. I would have probably got through the meal and gone and thought, what a terrible place to be, what a terrible situation, being spoken to like that. But now I don't see it like that too. I welcome it. I look forward to the next admonishment. Why? Because each time I'm told I'm doing something incorrectly, do it this way, and that is how it is told, at the right time, in the right place, with the appropriate company, after them checking with each other that they've got it absolutely right, they didn't miss it. It's always done perfectly. Even admonishment has to be given correctly. There are 5 points to it, but that's a whole another talk. 5 understandings that the person giving the admonishment must have before they give the admonishment. Shall I quickly run through them? Have I got time? I've always got time, but I can't quite remember them. Something like, firstly, it must be correct. Secondly, it must be an appropriate time. It must be the right place. You mustn't have done it yourself before, so you mustn't be correcting something that you're doing wrong yourself. And there's a fifth, I can't remember. But anyway, this would have gone through their minds every time. Plus then they have to put it together in very few English words and Thai words we can string together, and miming. This is what it's like. This is the beauty of here. But we can communicate because we are all working from the same, singing from the same hymn sheet, or song sheet is another expression, but we are from the Vinaya, the same rule book, from whichever country we come from. And for this reason, it works well. So when I'm corrected, I think, oh, that's another secret I've learned, another piece of the code to open the doors to enlightenment, another step on the path towards Nibbana. It's like learning another word in a new language. So I'm as grateful to be learning one new word in Thai, for instance. What did I learn today? I didn't. I think I'm still on yesterday's word. Sabai, sabai is happy, happy. So just as excited about learning a new word and remembering it and being able to use it as learning or being admonished for doing something you're not doing quite correctly, and being able to then do it next time correctly. So you see it as a positive thing. But of course we don't ordinarily work or live or think that way. If our boss says you've done something wrong, you just go away and say, oh, okay then. Oh, well, he thinks that, but you know, he doesn't know. And you still think that you know best. What is this? This is your personality view. I don't like the word ego. It's not quite right for the translation of Sakaya Ditti, which is personality view, the Pali word for personality view, or our view of ourselves. Now we talked about this I talked about this in our death video, about what we are, the construct, the accumulation, the results of causes and conditions surrounding us, creating what we see as our personality. Now when someone comes and tries to chink that armour, make a dent in it, pierce that armour you've created, you call your personality, your abilities, your knowledge, your experience, by underlying it at the very foundations of something very basic, like how you wash up a cup or something like that. There's this tendency to rebel, shut down the shutters, and argue back. Now in this environment there is no arguing back, there is no speaking back unless you're asked to. And this is very important because it is always coming from the common standard that we all adhere to and know is correct. So to be guided back on to the path you've strayed from is received gratefully, and you say thank you, not forcedly. You want to say thank you. You feel grateful for the admonishment. My most recent yesterday was I've been used to eating with my hand in India, very easy from your bowl. These bowls are steel, and they're like those singing bowls you see in the Tibetan monasteries, or bells if you like. So any ching on them with anything metal or anything, you have an amplified sound. But even that aside, we now use this little Thai spoon thing like this in Thailand rather than your hand, which is I had started to use before I came back, with great relief, because at Prasad the food was so hot it used to burn my fingers, and more than my mouth, which is a strange thing. Your fingers to temperature are so much more sensitive than your mouth. Did you know that? It's something you discover if you're eating hot food with your fingers in India. You can put it in your mouth as quickly as you can because it doesn't burn there like it burns on your fingers. That's from experience and absolutely true. But don't try it at home, it's dangerous. But now I have this spoon, my Thai spoon, which is like a very useful implement. But of course, on the, like that on the bowl is not an acceptable thing. We're eating in absolute silence. We don't speak, no noises in the mouth or anything going on. Oh, now that is very different to, not in a monastery, but outside in India, in worldly life in India. There's a lot of noise always, and eating is done very noisily, cheerily, happily. And it's not that it's not cheery and happy we're eating here, we're really enjoying the food, but it's done really beautifully. Everything here, including admonishment, is done beautifully. Not in a choreographed, forced, false, systematical way, but in a natural flowing way, like a stream flowing. And it runs smoothly. All of what we do, from beginning the meal to the finishing of the meal to the clearing our bowl, cleaning our bowl, is done harmoniously. And if there's one little thing out of place, like this constant, probably that quiet, you probably didn't hear that, but that steel on steel, it just breaks that little that piece. It just, there are also practical connotations. You're scratching your bowl, which is a total no-no. No scouring, just soft cloths and careful washing. So these are little considerations, but if you take them all into account and put them all together, that's what creates this beautiful atmosphere for practice, which remains, though, natural. This is why they're not seen as rules, but supports to our practice. It opens up this, it's liberating. So at the mealtime today, I made sure I had a little bit of rice extra in the bowl as a buffer, in case there was something really nice that I wanted to get at the end. But no, it came naturally, because I am used to this. I'd just forgotten. It'll just become a different way of doing things in a different country. So instantly, having been reminded of this, it was no trouble. I even ate a little bit of extra rice, cleared my bowl without any scraping or seeming to be scraping. That's just a silly little example. But it's, you know, how many times you do this to your senior monks, whether you do it all of the time or occasionally. This is a very finely balanced and very difficult thing to understand. It varies from monastery to monastery, country to country. But I'm getting there. And each day is a day of learning. So in that respect, yes, this has today sounded like a bit of a diary. Because I think it's today's diary entry, I think, is a valuable contribution to household life also. Because if we can just step out of ourselves for a moment when we're offered criticism and see it from that other person's point of view, and more importantly, from all of the surrounding conditions, the environment, the causes that put them in the position to make this criticism in the first place, but really see it from not your side of things, not from behind your eyes, not from your point of view, but from theirs and others' point of view. And just ask yourself, if I was with them, if I was them, if I was in another part of this company surrounding them, how would I look upon that criticism of me, of that person? Would I be judgmental of it, or would I say to myself, yes, that's a fair criticism of that person? Now, even if it is an unfair criticism of you, more often than not, what is the harm of trying it their way? Because isn't surely the very best way to prove your point is to go with the flow, do it their way, and they will then learn, if it doesn't work, that that is not the right way. I'm talking about unimportant things like methods we do something at work, or how we behave in the house we're living in with our friends. Obviously there's a core standard. I'm not saying breach the precepts or your just general ethics, but if it's the way you photocopy a piece of paper and put it in a file, then there's always room for manoeuvre. Do it their way and see how it works out. If after a few days you see it's all going horribly wrong, for sure they will see that too, and they will come to you and say, sorry, I don't think I was right. Let's go back to your way, it was best. You understand? So this is how we see this as a positive and encouraging step towards our goal of becoming better people and happier, more content people. Because if we're not arguing with critics, but accepting criticism or even welcoming it, there is a lot less friction, a lot less concern in our lives and stress. And it is this we're trying to reduce. So it's all well and good saying, I'm a meditator, I sit in the sunset and I'm calming my mind. But don't let your mind get uncalm in the first place. All day, every day, there are little reminders, causes, conditions you put in place. Each and everything is karma. Each and everything you do, the next cup of coffee you make will have results, causes and effect. There's nothing you can do that won't affect something else, there and then or in the future. And you can see evidence of this in each and everything you do through the day. And this is mindfulness, this is sati, this is watching your bodily actions and your mental actions, and how you project those through your actions of body, speech and mind. And this is what we're adjusting. We're either adjusting it in accordance with the core what, or the Vinaya, or the rules of the monastery where you're living, or your workplace, or your family home, or shared accommodation, or even in social environments. We adapt, we adjust, we fit in within the scope of our own moral discipline, but always taking into account other people's points of view. This is kindness, this is metta, this is loving kindness, this is compassion, this is also having joy for other people's enjoyment, and also understanding when people are not enjoying themselves or are unhappy. Knowing the causes, knowing the conditions. And by noticing this each and every moment of each and every day, you are always aware. You are awake. And this is what Buddha means, to be awake. So, finally, on that, I do have some questions, but I think I'll need to leave those for the questions and answers video separately. So finally, the first stage of enlightenment that we call sotapanna in the Pali word, stream entry, The analogy of the stream, entering a stream, is that Nibbana, supposedly in this analogy, is an island. And we're on the mainland. If you watch the video later, I'm on the mainland, and across the sea is an island. But anyway, it's not that, nothing to do with that really, but you have a stream. On the path to enlightenment, the first stage is entering this stream. The second stage they call once returner. So you go into the stream but you come back, and then the next stage is non-returner. You actually reach this island. And then the final stage, arahant, is where you let go of all ties to the mainland. Say all transport boats or ropes or bridges back, put it that way. These are called the fetters. So not to go into all of that in any detail, the first stage, sotapanna, stream entry, requires the abandonment, complete abandonment of sakkaya ditthi, personality view. You can call it ego, but that's not quite the right translation. But this thinking that yourself, this personality, is you, rather than fully understanding it is not. It is just a result of the circumstances and causes and conditions you are in. Let's say you're a policeman, you're wearing a policeman's uniform. Of course you're a policeman, you look like a policeman, you're wearing a policeman's uniform. But were you born a policeman? No. Will you die a policeman? No. Some people say, oh yes, he's always a policeman, even at home. Yes, of course, in the way your mechanics of your thinking mind work. But no. This is just a convention, an idea. There weren't always policemen. There won't necessarily always be policemen. Some countries have a kind of combination of army and police. It's very different. But it's convention. It is not you. But you ask any policeman, he's a copper, he's a policeman. That's his personality. Especially if you ask a criminal, who's that? He or he's a copper. You know? So it's not. That is not you. And this system of admonishment, or in reverse, this system of accepting criticism as encouragement and looking forward to it, is a positive way towards reducing, eradicating sakkaya ditthi, personality view, which is probably the hardest part of stream entry. The only other two requirements that would make you be able to be considered or consider, these are just also conventional terms and ways, signposts if you like, to map this path towards enlightenment. It's not an actual thing, it's the way we describe it, the way we drop these fetters, these attitudes, these ideas. The only other two things are the abandonment of rites and rituals, so basically praying and worshipping for praying and worshipping's sake, thinking that that will make everything all right, when it's only what we do, our actions, that will make everything all right through body, speech and mind, not who we pray to or what we worship or any superstitions. There's the dropping of that, and also the full knowledge, understanding, not just of the words, but the Four Noble Truths, as in they are the truth. The full acceptance of that, in that you are living the Four Noble Truths. You know this is the truth. And it cannot be changed, it cannot be taken away. Once you've seen the truth of these Four Noble Truths in the realization of suffering and the end of suffering, and how the end of suffering comes about through the practice of sila, samadhi, panya, that realization of anicca, dukkha, anatta. This is the full understanding of those Four Noble Truths. So that understanding of the Four Noble Truths, the abandonment of rites and rituals, and the eradication of sakkaya ditthi or personality view, this is the first stage of enlightenment. Sotapanna, stream enterer. So don't be worried about being told off, welcome it. Don't be worried about being criticized, welcome it. If you're criticizing others, if you're admonishing others, do it very carefully. Take those 5 points into account. make sure you've got it absolutely right. And this way we all live so much more harmoniously in whatever community we are living in. I didn't think I'd live in a community again. I wanted to live alone. But I found a community. Okay, it's small, but it has quite a large support community behind it. There are the nuns, there are the lay people who live here, whom are working behind the scenes all of the time. So it is a community. And it wouldn't work if we weren't working very closely together, albeit completely practicing in solitude. I won't speak to another monk today until tomorrow when we wash up bowls again. This seems to be the only time. In this way we practice together on the same path towards the same goal of becoming free from suffering in this lifetime. And here certainly there are monks well on that way to that path, towards that path and goal of Nibbana. And it's such a beautiful thing and pleasure and privilege to be around them. So with that, I offer you my sincerest good wishes. I hope you can enjoy the guided meditation video that I've made. But I don't think it's very good because I don't plan these things. I do them on the spur of the moment, and you can be you can be the judge of that. I'll leave it to you. So I will say goodbye for now. I still don't know what goodbye is in Thai, so I'll say my usual thing. And Sukhi Hotu, Sukhi Hotu, Sukhi Hotu, Namo Buddhaya.